Howdy, everyone. So obviously I've been working on the rudder and it is now complete, and I didn't film anything as far as mounting it because it's pretty straightforward. There are 3 attach points on the back side of the vertical stabilizer are the white powder coated brackets, and then on the rudder itself you have the 3 individual ball ends or rod ends here that attach it to the brackets. So I'm not going to go over a lot of that other than to say a few things. One thing that I noticed is if you go back to the rudder plan, which is drawing number 7, they have callouts for the basic dimension from the spar to the center point of the rod end, and they have dimensions noted for all 3. And I believe, let me see if I can get under here. Yes, they are all different. So this top one says it's 51/64. This middle one says 59/64, and then the bottom one is 1 inch and 1/16. But on the written instructions, they give you 3 different dimensions. Of course, they're close, but they are different. So pick one or the other. It doesn't matter. Either pick the written instruction numbers or the numbers off of the plans to set your rod ends initially, and then fit it to the fuselage or fit it to the vertical. Now, I fooled around with mine for quite a bit. I'm going to go around here to the other side. Excuse my nakedness. So you can see how this is completely bind free. I mean, I'm just tapping it with my hand and letting it swing. I should put a shirt on. But you can see that there's no binding and it swings freely. And another check that I like to do is I'll reach in here and see if I can easily move the bolts up and down. So I know that there isn't any preload on the bearings. I can reach in here and I can move the bolts up and down easily. And I check that on all the extremes. So I'll move the rudder all the way to the left, check the bolts, make sure they're nice and free, and I'll check it in the middle, and then I'll move it all the way over to the right and do the same thing, reach in here and make sure that I can move the bolts up and down easily by hand. So I know, like I said, I know they're not preloaded in any way. And then of course there's the gap here. You want to try to maintain a nice consistent gap, a nice tight gap through here. And then there's the gap here. You want that to be nice and even. And then you want to have clearance between the horizontal and the front of the rudder weight. Right in that little corner there, you want clearance so this can swing. So it's a little bit of trial and error, but it goes fairly quick, I guess. I was out here for maybe a couple of hours, but you know me, I'm really tedious with this stuff. So I spent a lot of time jacking around with the rod ends to get that just right. And I wanted the rudder pulled in nice and tight so there wasn't a mega gap in here. So that's done. I'm happy with it. It works. It's aligned. All my gaps and spaces are really nice. So now I'm going to work on, that's the other thing. So the instructions also tell you that when you do your rudder travel limits, the limit is set by having the elevator in its neutral position. I've got the other side clamped, so this is neutral position. When you swing the rudder over, full deflection I think is 35 degrees, and that is roughly, if you measure off of the edge of the trailing edge of the elevator in neutral over to the skin of the rudder, that dimension here should be 1.125" on both sides, and that roughly gives you the 35 degrees full deflection of the rudder. I verified that after I had all my rod ends adjusted and I had this in place. I was able to swing this in over to less than 1.125", and I was able to swing it over to the other side with the trim tab in place, with the trim tab neutral. I was able to get less than 1.125" between the edge here and the rudder skin. So now I am starting to fit the rudder stop. I am not using the Van's stop. I'm using this internal nylon stop, and it's just laying in here. I haven't done anything with it. I just laid it in there, and you can see that it's way too big right now with the rudder to the right all the way against that stop. I've got like 3.5 inches of gap here. So that's what I'm working on next. I'm going to start fiddling around with trimming down this stop here so I can get this back to the 1.125". All right, let me move on to some other things here. Again, I apologize for the nakedness. I usually throw on a shirt before I film, but I just didn't feel like it this time around, so there you go. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. This is the plastic. It's some kind of nylon, I believe. This is the stop that I was just talking about for the rudder. I forget where I purchased this. It's too bad that I couldn't get some kind of a drawing for this, or actually I should have been motivated enough to try to design my own, but it's, I'm going to guess it's about 3/8 thick. And like I said, it's too bad I couldn't get drawings for it, or it's too bad I didn't take the time to design my own, because this would be incredibly easy to make rather than buying it. But anyway, I don't remember where I purchased this, but it just fits. A lot of people put them on top. I'm going to put mine in between the bracket. Like I said, a lot of people put them up here. I'm going to put mine in between. And like I had showed you a minute ago, I had this in here with the rudder, and it does not interfere at all with the ball end that swivels in here. But I did notice that with it laying in here, when I'd bring the rudder all the way over, both of these inside corners would touch way before the outside. So I got to cut this back at a different angle. But the first thing I need to do is transfer these holes that are in this part to these brackets so I can drop in a couple bolts. So that's what I'm going to do first, and then I'll start trimming these ears back until I can get that rudder to swing all the way over and give me that 1.125" distance on these corners.